The average American household now spends thousands of dollars every year on services that didn't even exist 50 years ago. Cable television, internet packages, insurance premiums, streaming subscriptions, cell phone plans. Most of these bills increase slowly enough that people hardly notice. A few dollars one year, $10 next. Another fee was quietly added to the statement, another price increase hidden inside the fine print. Eventually, the monthly bills become something people simply accept. My grandmother never accepted them. She lived for 86 years and refused to pay more for a service simply because a company decided to raise the price. That may sound unusual today. It was even more unusual in 1994. She made a phone call that lasted exactly 11 minutes. When she hung up, her cable bill dropped by $68. Her internet bill dropped by $22. Her insurance premium fell by nearly $400 a year. The cost of the call? Nothing. And before you tell yourself this only works for seniors, or only works if you're good at arguing, let me stop you right there. Grandmother hates talking on the phone. She writes grocery lists on index cards. She still uses a flip phone. And yet somehow she knew something that millions of customers never hear. Stay with me. Because in a few minutes I'm going to give you the exact sentence she used, the exact department she asked for, and the 4 words that caused 3 different companies to suddenly discover discounts they had insisted did not exist. But first, you need to understand why nobody tells you this. The first time I met grandmother, she was sitting beside a yellow rotary phone she kept in a kitchen drawer because she said modern phones ring too much. She wasn't angry. She wasn't political. She simply opened a shoebox. Inside were 30 years of utility bills. Electric, telephone, cable, insurance, every bill carefully folded and dated. She pointed to a cable bill from 2004. $42. Then she handed me her newest statement. $138. Same television, same house, same customer, different price. She looked at me and said, "Nobody ever rewards the people who stay." And then she picked up the phone. What happened next is something customer service representatives know, company executives understand, and millions of customers never learn. Because hidden inside nearly every large company is a department that does not make money by selling. It makes money by stopping people from leaving. And that department changes everything. The companies call it retention. Some call it customer loyalty. Others call it account resolution. But inside the building, everybody knows what it really means. It's the department where the discounts live. The same company that tells you there are no promotions. The same company that says prices are fixed. The same company that insists your premium cannot be reduced. Suddenly discovers options when they think you're about to walk away. Grandmother learned this from her late husband, a telephone lineman who retired in 1987. He told her something she wrote on the back page of a recipe book. The first person answers questions. The second person keeps customers. For 40 years, she never forgot it. And one rainy Tuesday morning, after opening another insurance renewal notice, she made the call. She did not yell. She did not threaten. She simply said, "I've enjoyed being your customer, but I need to speak with someone who handles account cancellations before I make my decision." 8 seconds of silence. The representative transferred her. Everything changed. Because the person who answers your first call often has no authority to lower your bill, but the retention department does. And that difference is worth hundreds of dollars every year. Nobody at the cable company wants you to know this. Nobody at the insurance company advertises it. Because the most profitable customer in America is not the new customer. It's the loyal customer who never asks questions. The customer who assumes the price is the price. The customer who pays the increase every year because they think everyone else is paying it too. Grandmother stopped being that customer. And by the end of the afternoon, every bill on her kitchen table had changed. The next morning, grandmother showed me something I did not expect. She opened a small address book, the kind with faded pages and names written in pencil. Beside certain companies, she had written only one word: asked. Not paid. Not canceled. Asked. She told me something her mother had said during the Depression. If the price can rise, the price can fall. Most people never ask. And companies understand that because somewhere over the last 20 years, Americans stopped treating bills like conversations and started treating them like laws. The number arrives in the mail, the number appears on the screen, and we assume that somebody, somewhere, has already decided what we must pay. Grandmother never believed that. She believed bills were invitations to negotiate, and when I asked her how she learned that, she walked into another room and returned with a stack of insurance papers tied together with a shoelace. Her husband had been hospitalized years earlier. Money was tight. The premiums kept increasing. Every year another letter arrived with another explanation. Inflation, market conditions, administrative costs, industry adjustments, words that sound official enough to stop people from asking questions. But one afternoon her husband called the company and said something that grandmother never forgot. He said, "I've been a customer for 20 years. Before I make any decisions, I need to understand whether this is truly your best price." Those words changed everything. The representative put him on hold. 3 minutes later, the premium dropped. No arguments, no threats, no raised voices, just a question. Grandmother looked at me and said, "They always have another drawer." That sentence stayed with me, because over the next several weeks I began speaking with former customer service employees, retired insurance agents, and people who had worked inside call centers. And nearly every one of them described the same thing. The first price is often not the final price. The first answer is often designed to end the conversation. But there is another department, another set of options. One former employee told me they called it the save desk. Another called it retention. Some simply called it the drawer. Because when customers were willing to leave, suddenly discounts appeared. Promotions appeared. Credits appeared. Plans that supposedly no longer existed somehow returned. What surprised me most was not that these programs existed. It was how many people inside the companies expected customers to ask for them. One former cable representative told me, "The customers who asked usually saved money. The customers who didn't paid everything." And that brings us to the phone call itself, because grandmother's call lasted only 11 minutes. She did not mention competitors, threaten lawsuits, or complain. She followed 3 simple steps. First, she thanked the representative. Second, she explained that her bills had become difficult to manage. Third, she asked to speak with the department that handled account cancellations before making any decisions. That last sentence matters, not because it is magic, but because it sends the call to people whose job is to keep customers. And those employees often have tools that the first representative cannot access. Grandmother told me that the young man who answered her call sounded tired. She said he probably spoke with angry people all day. So she began by asking how his morning was going. There was silence. Then he laughed. He said nobody had asked him that all week. 10 minutes later, her monthly bill was lower. She wrote the amount on an index card. She placed it inside the shoebox. And beside the date, she wrote 4 words. They finally looked. Because, according to grandmother, that is what most companies are counting on. Not that customers will stay, but customers will never ask them to look. And once you understand that, the entire relationship between you and your bills begins to change. The cable company changes. The insurance company changes. The internet provider changes. Not because they suddenly become generous, but because you finally reach the people whose job is saying yes. A few days after meeting grandmother, I sat with her at the same kitchen table while she sorted through envelopes. Every envelope had been opened neatly with a letter opener that belonged to her husband. She never threw the old bills away. She kept them. Because, as she put it, if you want to know what changed, you have to know what used to be. She laid 3 insurance statements side by side. Car, house, driver, 3 different prices. The newest bill was nearly twice the oldest one. Nothing had happened. No accidents, claims, or major repairs. Only the price had changed. And that is when grandmother told me something that every company understands. Most customers notice increases. Very few customers challenge them. Year after year, the numbers climb. $5 here, $8 there, $15 somewhere else. Small enough that people sigh and pay. Large enough that companies earn billions. One retired insurance agent explained it this way. He said companies depend on what they call inertia. People stay because changing companies feels difficult. Calling feels uncomfortable. Asking feels embarrassing. And waiting on hold feels exhausting. The bill counts on your silence. Grandmother knew that. She said the hardest part of the entire process was dialing the number. After that, everything became easier. She kept a small note card beside the phone. Written in blue ink were 3 questions. Am I receiving every available discount? Are there any loyalty programs? Can I speak with the department that handles account cancellations? Just questions. She said people become nervous because they think they must argue. But she believed something different. She believed companies spend millions teaching employees what to say. A retired cable technician told me that customers who had been with the company for 15 years often paid more than brand new customers. A former insurance representative told me that loyalty discounts sometimes disappeared quietly over time. Another customer service worker said many accounts qualified for promotions that were never automatically applied. Not because someone was malicious, simply because nobody asked. Grandmother's husband used to call these forgotten discounts money sitting in a drawer. He believed companies place resources where customers push. One afternoon, Grandmother showed me a notebook. Inside were the names of neighbors. Beside each name she had written a small number. $32, $50, $80, $112. These were not debts. They were savings. Friends she had encouraged to make the call. A widow across the street reduced her television bill. A retired mechanic lowered his insurance premium. A couple on a fixed income negotiated their internet service. Grandmother never called it negotiating. She called it reminding companies that customers still have choices. And perhaps that is why these conversations make companies uncomfortable. Because the modern billing system depends on something very simple. Automatic payment, automatic renewal, automatic increases. Everything happens automatically except the customer. The customer is expected to remain silent and trust the number. Grandmother never believed that. She believed every bill represented a conversation that had not happened yet. And that brings us to the sentence she used when representatives told her there were no discounts available. She never argued or accused. She simply said, I understand. Before I make my decision, could you please connect me with the department that handles customers who may need to leave? She told me that sentence changed the voice on the other end of the phone. People became quieter. They checked another screen. They placed her on hold. They returned with options. Because somewhere inside these companies are employees whose entire job is convincing people to stay. And the moment you reach them, you are finally speaking to the people who can actually change the number on your bill. A week before I left, I stopped by Grandmother's house one last time. The afternoon sun was coming through the kitchen window. The bills were gone. The shoebox was back on the shelf. The phone sat quietly beside a bowl of wrapped candies. I asked her why she thought so many people never make the call. She thought about it for a moment. Then she said, because they've been taught that the bill is the answer. That sentence stayed with me all the way home, because somewhere along the way we stopped believing we had any place in the conversation. The price appeared. The payment came due. The automatic withdrawal happened. And we accepted that the number on the paper was final. But Grandmother never saw it that way. She believed companies are made of people. People make decisions. People have departments. People have options. And somewhere behind the first menu, behind the first representative, behind the first I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do, there is often another person whose entire job is finding a reason to keep you. Strange thing is that none of this costs money. No special membership. No expensive consultant. No secret website. No subscription. Just a phone call. Just a question. Just the willingness to hear no once in order to reach the person who can finally say yes. Before I left, Grandmother opened her address book one final time. She said her father taught her something during hard times many years ago. The people who ask where the money goes usually keep more of it. Maybe that is the real secret. Not the phone number, the department, or the script. The real secret is remembering that loyalty should mean something, that staying should count for something, and that the companies collecting your money every month should occasionally be reminded that there is still a person sitting at the other end of the bill. So, if you find yourself opening another statement this week, staring at another number that somehow became larger than the one before it, perhaps do what grandmother did. Pick up the phone, ask the question, request the department, write the answer down, because a conversation that costs nothing may save more than you expect. And if you do make that call, write the amount you saved somewhere. Because 20 years from now, when somebody asks how the bills finally started coming down, you'll have your own little shoebox, your own notes, your own numbers, and maybe, like grandmother, you'll simply smile and say, "They finally looked." Until next time, open the envelope carefully, ask the question politely, and remember that the most expensive bill in America is often the one nobody ever challenges.